What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today I am coming to you with a slightly croaky voice, still no post-lockdown haircut, but one of the best and most exciting videos I have ever done. You might notice, now, there are a bunch of people on Twitter who are like, Wossy, make more Keyforge videos. At the moment, Keyforge videos are not going well for various reasons, but you have my word, when news and exciting things are going on in Keyforge, I will be covering it again, I promise. But random Keyforge videos, unfortunately, at the moment, people don't seem terribly into, which is sad, but I think this might be an exception, because you might notice that there are 9 Keyforge decks in front of me, and every single one of these Keyforge decks has the Wossy Plays logo on. Not only that, but they all have names like Bitter Pink Jacket of Wossy. Incidentally, this is the best of them. So, why do I have Wossy Plays Keyforge decks, and are they real? Well, this is a weird story that I didn't think I'd be able to get to share. I thought the time had passed. So essentially, when Keyforge launched, I was covering it pretty extensively, covering all the news. I was building a lot of hype for Keyforge. When it was really at its height of popularity, when it first came out, I was getting Keyforge videos that are still among some of the most popular on this channel. And I really hope Keyforge gets back to that stage, because I love the game. But I was covering it pretty extensively. And what Asmodee, who are the owners of Fantasy Flight Games who make the game, what they did was they did some cool stuff. So there were some local game stores who they would send a couple of decks with the shop logo and the name of the shop in the deck. And there were, I think, a couple of prize decks along these lines. I always got very, very jealous. Now, fast forward to late 2019. Yes, I'm recording this right at the end of June 2021. But in late 2019, somebody gets in touch with me from Asmodee. They follow me on Twitter and I'm like, ooh, something's happening. And they go, hey, do you want us to send you something cool? Well, Asmodee makes awesome games. So when someone from Asmodee is like, hey, can we send you something cool? The answer is yes. That sounds amazing. And then nothing ever turned up. And that was really weird. And so I waited and I waited, and eventually I got a message from them. And they basically said, look, we've heard from the courier and they're not coming. They've been destroyed in transit. Figured I'd show some of these off while I was having a chat with you lovely ladies and gentlemen. So this was, I checked the emails in February of last year, which is 18 months ago. No, it's not. No, it is. No, wait. 16, almost 17, about 17 months ago, because it was early February. So about 17 months ago, I was told, look, we're sorry, we tried. Now, at that point, they got in touch and they were like, look, do you want to know what it was? Because I didn't actually know what they were sending me. And there's a really weird thing going on here. Because on the one hand, I want to know what they've sent me. And on the other hand, at this stage, I know it's never coming. I know whatever they've sent me is not going to arrive. And that's really sad. But I needed to know. So I said, all right, tell me. And they were like, right. We made you some custom Keyforge decks with your logo and your name on. And I went, oh. And there's a real, in two minds about that kind of thing. Because on the one hand, how awesome is it that Asmodee went to all that effort to do this? And on the other hand, how sad is it that I would never get them? Now, at this stage, a bunch of you are probably thinking, well, hang on a second, Wossy. You have the decks. They are in front of you. You're showing them off to the camera right now. What happened? What happened was I gave up on these. I just assumed they'd been lost. I accepted the fact I could never have them. And then last week, somebody tweeted at me and just said the Wossy and a picture of 9 Keyforge decks with 3 of them with the names visible, and all of them had my logo on and had Wossy in the name. Which was weird, right? And essentially, they tweeted at me and I tweeted at them and I'm like, right, how do we get the decks to me? And they went, and I'm going to keep them anonymous. They've asked to be anonymous. That's absolutely fine. And so I said, right, how do we get these? And they went, oh, we can't have you get them. I can't have you get them. And I was like, but you showed me you have the decks. I can prove they're mine. They've literally got my name and channel on them. You knew they were mine well enough to tweet them at me. How do we get them to me? And they blocked me. Now, I was very polite, and I even said to them, right, I didn't really expect you to do much at all. I need to know 2 things. I need to know where they are now, and I need to know who to contact. So when I contact them, I can say, look, they're at this sorting office or whatever. They blocked me and never got back. So you might have seen I tweeted out, I posted in the Keyforge group over on Facebook, and I think we made enough noise. They unblocked me, they got back in touch, and they went, right, I'll send them over to you. At the moment, they're even not letting me pay postage, which is really mean. I'm a Brit, right? We're overly polite by nature. I have a real need to reimburse them for postage. I really hope they will let me. But I've got them. And they're here. And I am so, so, so grateful to that person for sending them down. I don't know what happened. Like, I think that the packaging got destroyed and the decks fell out. I don't know how they found them a year and a half later. Because they were sent at the end of 2019. It's been 18 months since these were sent. So I don't know how they found them 18 months later. I don't know whether they did find them at work or what. I honestly don't know. And I don't really care. Like, I want to know. My own curiosity makes me want to know. But it doesn't matter. Because I have them. I have my Wossy decks. And I'm so excited. I am so happy. I don't think I will ever have any TCG memorabilia as cool as this. And bearing in mind, I play a bunch of TCGs. But no other company has ever made me custom cards for my channel. I have 9 actual Wossy decks. Now, incidentally, I'm not going to be able to go through all 9 deck lists with you and a full analysis. That'll make it a very, very long, very technical video. I wanted to really share the story of it. What I will do, I'll pop a link in the description to a link where it goes to Decks of Keyforge, who do the SAS rating, and that will just link you to all of the decks, and you'll just be able to see all 9 of them, and you can go and peruse them at your leisure. So if you're one of those people that's a hardcore Keyforge player and you really want to look at the decks, that is the best place to do so. But I have been having a little bit of a look. Like I've said, for me, name-wise, Bitter Pink Jacket of Wossy is by far the coolest name. It's not the coolest deck. They've all been scanned. Don't worry, that's how you can go and see them. But there are some cool things I can tell you about these decks. Now, the best of the decks, and I'm afraid I'm having to just flick between a couple of screens here as I talk to you, but the best of the decks is actually Gerda, June's Roboticist of Wossy, which is, here we go, right, no, that's not it, here we go, this one. Gerda, June's Roboticist of Wossy, a Saurian Star Alliance disc deck. Now, incidentally, these are all Worlds Collide decks. I'm fairly sure it's Worlds Collide. I'm not being really dumb here, am I? I'm pretty sure they're all Worlds Collide. That's what I've got in my head. I'm going to feel very silly if they're not. No, they are all Worlds Collide decks. That's kind of when they were printed up. So, Star Alliance and Saurian are in. Mars, unfortunately, are out, which is a little bit sad, but nothing we can do. This is the best deck. Now, according to Decks of Keyforge, this has a 79 SAS, which puts it at 98%, or like the top 2% of decks. Which is clearly ridiculous, and that is kind of awesome. It is actually higher rated than any deck I've opened so far. The worst of them is Garand, the Empiricist of Wossy Plays, which is this one here in the middle. This one comes in at an SAS of 52, which puts it in the bottom 4% of decks. Which is, you know, sad. But then again, there is that format where you're trying to play the worst decks. So in that format, this might be the one to go for. Apparently, this is a deck that loves Simon. Now, you'll notice this actually has a legacy card in there as well. It brings in Annihilation Ritual, which is a card which is not actually in this set. It's a card which is only found in a different set. And yet, it's in here as a legacy card. Now, I've never opened a deck with a legacy card in before. This is very cool. There is also a deck. Now, there are no Mavericks in here, unfortunately. But there's one legacy card, and there's one other thing I've not opened in any other deck. And that is in the Archon Who Mystifies Wossy Plays. Here we go. It is the very first deck I've ever opened, which actually has an anomaly. It's got Memolith in the Saurian Republic, which is really cool. So I've got my first legacy card, and I've got my first... And I opened a bunch of Worlds Collide. I just never opened up one with an anomaly. The anomalies were really quite rare. Something like 1% of decks or something like that. So having one which is got a very high SAS of 79, one with a legacy, one with a what do you call it? I've completely forgotten the word already. That's really sad. An anomaly. This is really cool. Incidentally, if you see me at a Vault Tour or something like that in the future, I am going to be playing one of these decks. Even if I open a much better deck, there is no way I can go to a Vault Tour and not play one of these decks. Now, I've not been told anything about them not being tournament legal. I'd be really sad if that was the case. But you can expect, if you sit down opposite me at a tournament in the future, and I really hope Vault Tours and stuff come back, you will see me playing one of these decks. Because how could I not, ladies and gentlemen? How could I not? Even in a game where all decks are unique, these are really something special. Because Asmodee made them for me, and they're so cool. Now, in terms of popular houses, etc., I did do a very, very quick look, and there's every possibility I've miscounted here. But the most common house is actually Dis. Dis appears in 7 of the 9 decks. The only ones it doesn't appear in are Lyle, the Tribune of Wossy. It's not in that one. And Dis is also not in the Archon who mystifies Wossy Plays. Otherwise, all the other 7 all have Dis in. The Saurian Republic is the next most popular. It's coming in 5 of the decks, which is kind of cool. I like me some dinos. And the least well represented is Kim the Bandit of Wossy, which is the only deck that actually has Brobnar. Now, given that Brobnar is by far my least favourite house, I kind of love that I've only got one Brobnar in 9 decks. I don't like Brobnar. I don't want them. So having them not in here is really kind of cool indeed. So I'm kind of happy. Yeah. I'd given up on these decks. Like, knowing that Asmodee had made them was cool, but I had legitimately given up on ever owning these decks. Literally 18 months ago, literally 18 months minus a couple of days, I found out these weren't coming and I gave up. And I was happy in the memory that I was going to get them one day, but unfortunately it was just not on the cards. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they are here. I could not be happier. These are amazing. I'm so happy. Oh, wonderful. All right, that's the story. Those are the decks. Like I've said, I will pop a link in the description so you can go to Decks of Keyforge, and if you want to have a real deep dive in on the decks, look through all the deck lists and how they work, etc., you can do so over there. I may well do an analysis of these decks as time goes by. It really depends how popular these are. I am more than happy to sit down and do a card-by-card analysis of the best deck, which is, like I've said, Gerda, June's Hypothesis of Wossy. I would happily do like a proper deck profile about this deck if that's the kind of thing people are into, where I look at exactly why it got the highest SAS score. Not sure that's something people really want at the moment, but if you do, that is something I would be very, very into. I have really not had a chance. You can see they're all still wrapped. I have not had a chance to really sit down and look into these decks. I certainly haven't sleeved them up and played them yet. I will. Yes, they're cool for collectability's sake, but these are Keyforge decks, and Keyforge decks are meant to be played. I might keep 1 or 2 of them sealed just for fun, but there is no way that that 79 SAS deck is not getting a whole bunch of run out. That's just not happening. I'm so happy. And just quickly before we finish here, huge, huge thank you to everyone over on the Facebook group. I posted about this on the Facebook group. I had lovely messages of support. I think a few people went and helped, which... yeah, hopefully you were super polite when you did it. I'd be a bit sad if you weren't, but somehow or other, the person that had these decks was convinced to send them over, and I am absolutely delighted about this. I'm hoping they just realised quite how much I wanted them. I sent them a message which basically said, look, imagine this. Imagine you can reconnect me with these irreplaceable items that I thought were lost 18 months ago. Tell me that wouldn't be a cool story. And... I'm hoping that's the reason. I really hope that's the reason. I really hope they didn't feel obliged or anything like that. I really hope they did it because they went, you know what? That would be a cool story. I'm doing it. So everyone on the Facebook group that sent good messages, gave me ideas for how I could start chasing them down. In the end, none of those ideas were needed, but there were a bunch of people that took time out of their day to say nice things and try and help and give me ideas, and that was really, really cool. I thank you sincerely for it. Over the next couple of days, I'm going to be spending time in the evening just sitting there, just flicking through these decks, really taking them apart. I am genuinely excited. I mean, to be honest with you, any day you get 9 Keyforge decks is a good day. But anytime you get 9 custom Keyforge decks that were made for you by the company to make the game, that is, that is a step beyond. And if it sounds like I'm gushing a little bit during this video, I probably am. Like I said earlier, I don't think I will ever own anything in any card game that is as cool as these. I don't think that's a realistic possibility. So for now, I'm just so happy they're here. And if the person who sent me these decks is watching, a sincere, heartfelt thank you, because you could have made it so I never got these. Instead, you took time out of your day to send them to me so I do have them. That is a super cool thing. If I ever see you in the real world, I owe you a pint. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know your take on this story. I want to know anything you want to tell me. And look, if you want to go and have a dig through these decks, follow the link in the description. If you want to point out anything or tell me anything you've noticed about any of these decks, that would be super cool as well. For now, you know the deal. Comment, like, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, Patreon, all that good stuff. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching a particularly excited Wossy Plays. Thanks, everyone.